Welcome friends. I had my first wall tent, hot tent experience back in 1972. That's about 50 something years ago now. Having a little bit of a winter storm today, I thought it would be a great time to share with you the things I've learned. So this can be your guide for being organized, safe, and comfortable in a wall tent any time of the year. So let's go inside, get a cup of hot coffee, and I'll tell you the story. My name is Kevin Miller. Welcome to West Fork. Let me show you around a little bit. First of all, this tent was made by Montana Canvas. I've probably had this tent, maybe 25 years. And it's made out of heavy-duty white canvas on the ceiling, and the fabric on the side. It has 5-foot sidewalls, and it's made out of a poly cotton blend. It's a lot lighter than other wall tents, which I like. It's easy for me to set up by myself. And at the time I ordered the aluminum frame, which I really am glad I did, because it's lightweight, easy to throw in the truck, easy to set up, and it allows the tent to be freestanding. The front of the tent is dedicated to the living area, the entrance of the tent, and cooking and heating. So pretty much everything that goes on is right by the entrance of the tent. You can get wood in real easily. And on the other side, there's a table with storage, and that has all the cooking supplies in there. This stove is a Camp Chef Alpine. It's not the most expensive stove, but it's doing a great job heating the tent, and it's great for cooking on. This is where I have my cot. If there were two of us, we could both have a cot back here. And the window there makes it really nice at night. If it's a warmer night, you can open that up and get some fresh air. I like to sleep cold all the time, so I keep the door cracked with the stove going on low and a little crack in the window back there. But I like to sleep where it's cool, and when I'm awake, I like to be up by the stove, cooking, sitting around the fire, and just having that for a living area. Everything here is broken into zones. There's a sleeping area, the cooking area, the storage, the living area, and out here there's the firewood with the chopping block, and then kind of a utility area over here where I have the chainsaw, propane fuel, gas fuel, extra tent stakes, tools, things like that out here. All out here where they can be kept dry under the tarp fly. You can buy expensive vinyl tarp flies when you order your tent. I found one that was just about 2 feet wider on the eaves than my tent. This one's just a regular poly tarp. I find it's working pretty good. I like to have a fly on there for a covered porch and extra overhangs on the eaves so the snow doesn't freeze to the tent. And the snow does slide off the poly tarp really well. The tent and fly are guyed down and staked deeply into the soil. There's a snow skirt around the outside, and I'll be piling snow up on that. When I get this buried in snow, it'll keep the north wind out. So yeah, just breaking the living area into zones is half the battle. It's a way to keep things organized and a way to keep things tidy. This is a 12 by 14 tent, so you only have so much space, and if it's going to function properly, organization is the key. We talked about this gearbox in my last video, but I want to tell you how I made it and how I'm using it now. On the bottom shelf, I got all my cast iron cleaned up. I got 3 nice cast iron pans in here, and I got a big Lodge griddle that slides along the side. Wooden kitchen matches, coffee at the ready at all times. On the top shelf, I just keep lighter weight stuff like flour, sugar, some butter, and there's some dishes up here, paper plates, a lot of miscellaneous dishes up there so I can cook meals. And the cool thing about it, there's a lid that goes over this whole thing to cover this to keep the mice out at night. So you got 2 levels here and the 3rd level at the top. This is where I keep the dishes, dirty dishes in this dish pan. my little wash basin so I can wash my face. For those of you that might be interested in making a gearbox like this, you can make one of these with 1/2 inch sheet of plywood, a 4x8 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. And the panels are 2 foot by 2 foot. We connected them together with small nails and then screwed an armor of 1x4 utility around the outside edges on all corners to really beef them up. And then there's a little shelf here that just floats. That can be tucked over to the side when you're transporting, and you can cram gear in here and put the lid on for transport. And then we gave them these little rope handles so you could get a guy on each side. I carried these by myself because I don't put too much gear in here, but back in the old days it took 2 guys to carry these boxes. Here's the 1x4 utility. We just cut some pieces, screwed them in there with sheetrock screws, and then painted the thing with some leftover house paint. Just a simple strip of 1x2 in there to hold that shelf up on each side. And as you can tell, it can get pretty dark in there because there's no light. So I recommend using some white gloss paint inside there. Ours has been banged around, probably needs a new coat of paint. The cast iron pans banging around there really took their toll. And one thing you'll want to do is to keep a clear path to the tent flap at all times, especially at night. It's 2 a.m. The fire is getting low. You might have to go out when nature calls. I like to keep my flashlight right here. It's nice to have a tote with a flat top because you can put a little lantern here, a flashlight, you can put your glasses there, handkerchief, a hat, maybe a jacket, so you can get up at night and make it outside without tripping on anything. The last thing you're going to want is an obstacle course when you're half asleep in the middle of the night. I don't like floors in my tents. All floors are nice. You know, they're a vinyl floor in a tent. It's really comfortable. A little bit of insulation. Keeps the water out. But if you ever get your tent wet, a floor makes it really hard. Unless it's a removable floor, it makes it really hard to ever get your tent dry again. So yeah, I like just having a tarp that I can throw down, I can walk on. It can get dirty. And I've chopped the spot out here, so I got a area for the wood stove. It just works out really well for me. Another benefit to having an internal frame for your wall tent is you can hang a clothesline all the way around the outside. Especially near the wood stove, that's pole position over there. You're going to want to hang stuff there to get them dried out quick. Wood stoves can be safe or they can be really, really dangerous. Just with a few precautions, you can enjoy all the benefits that the wood stove has, like hot water, heated at all times, being able to cook on here, gathering around to warm your bones. I like to keep the area in front of the stove clear. Couple of little safety tips to note. I like having a heat shield behind the stove. I just have this old piece of aluminum roofing. What I need to do is put a couple of vertical stakes. I'd like to do that and kind of make it more of a horseshoe so it doesn't have to lean against the tent back there. That's one of my projects that I'm going to do. Then the other thing, don't stack your wood around the stove, on the stove, under the stove. I don't care if it's wet or what. We've had at least 1 or 2 times where the wood pile caught on fire in the middle of the night. It's bad. It smokes out everybody. You usually end up using water, so then it's raining, this black rain. Just a mess. And also on this stove I have a spark arrestor at the top. That keeps the embers from falling onto the canvas outside. That works great. I expect that to plug up about every 2 days of normal use, and I'll usually have a long pole so I can tap it. Most of the creosote will come out of the mesh, but sometimes I have to let the fire go out and take the stovepipe completely out and bang the stovepipe out and give the spark arrestor a proper cleaning, maybe once a week. Other than that, the wood stove, it's the heartbeat of the cabin tent. And while we're talking about safety and wood stoves, I need to tell you a little story. It was back in the early 80s, maybe 1983. We were all camped in a 16 by 24 canvas wall tent. And we had all gone hunting for the morning. My dad and I had hiked up this ridge. We were probably an hour in. We heard a loud explosion when we were on the hill, and we felt a concussion. We're on a ridge and we could look down and we could see a column of smoke coming up, black smoke, right where camp was. We ran back out of there to find out what happened and if everybody was okay. We thought it was maybe a car fire or something. And we got there, our tent, cots, gear, guns, ammunition, everything was completely up in smoke. And bullets were flying all over the place. So we couldn't approach the tent to see if there was anybody that needed rescue because there was so much ammo flying everywhere. We had to hide behind a tree and scream to find out if there was anybody in there. Fortunately, there wasn't, but I want to tell you what happened. We had a big wood stove in that tent, but we had 2 propane lanterns in there, and they were plumbed in with hoses to the big 5-gallon propane bottles. I think there were 2 of them in there, 1 for each lantern. The tanks were inside the tent, and the last person out stoked the fire real full so it would be still warm when we got back to camp and everybody would appreciate it. So he stoked the fire, he banked the fire, closed the tent flap nice and snug, and went hunting. Anyway, it got hotter and hotter inside that tent. I think those propane bottles, they have a pop-off valve on them to relieve pressure so it doesn't become a bomb when it gets too hot. I think it's 160 degrees. I might be wrong. Pop-off valve kicked and it started spraying propane inside the tent. The fuel finally got over to the draft holes on the wood stove, and it just went up like a bomb. Nobody was hurt, which was a miracle. And from then on, we got extra long hoses, and we piped them outside, and we put conduits over the hoses, and we put all of our bottles outside by the trees. So these days, for what I do, I just use portable propane bottles, and I take my lanterns outside at night, so I don't have to worry about fuel inside being a safety hazard. That's a true story, and boy did we learn a serious lesson. I always keep all of my fuel outside. Just outside the tent flap is good enough. There's air flowing through here and little garbage cans, so I don't have to reach far to throw something out. If you're going to be comfortable at the wall tent camp, you're going to need a lot of good dry firewood. Yeah, so I keep it stacked out here. If it starts getting too snowy, I have a tarp to put over this. That'll help a lot. But I can also bring some in and stack it underneath a table where I have my camp kitchen. I like a nice tall chopping block right outside. Not something you have to bend over too far. If I want to make kindling, I can stand right up here and do it. I don't like to bend over when I chop. So yeah, just come out here and pop a nice piece of wood in half and you're ready to stoke the fire. I like to bring a little foam pad because sometimes the ground can get wet with snow melt or whatever around in here because there's no tarp in this area. Little kneeling pad is really a luxury. That way I can get right down in here and poke around in the fire and throw a couple logs on. You need to have good air circulation even on the coldest nights. And then I unzip my window just a little bit. Just get a little airflow in here. The fire extinguisher is must-have equipment. I usually keep one right next to the gearbox and I just forgot to put it in here, so I'll have to add that to my list. But you must have a fire extinguisher in a wall tent at all times. And be sure to let each one of your partners know where it is, so they'll be able to use it in case there's an emergency. Well, we're covering a lot of topics here, and the video is going to start getting long, but I got to show you a couple more things. First of all, I cooked the grilled cheese in this cold handle pan, and it's only going to take me 30 seconds, well, maybe a minute, to clean this and get it ready for the next meal right here on the wood stove. So what I do is I heat it up again. I got hot water on the side here. If you do get a wall tent wood stove, I do recommend the hot water heater. Great convenience. But if you decide not to go with a hot water heater, you can put a small wash tub, galvanized wash tub, right on here. Just make sure you keep water in it at all times, because they're soldered at the bottom and that solder will melt. It's got to have water in it if you're going to set it on the wood stove. So anyway, I just add a little of this scalding hot water in my pan, and then take my spatula and kind of just scrape the food off the bottom. That's good. Dump it behind the stove there. Pour a little bit more in there. And this time, I take a paper towel. That's one thing I like to have, is a lot of paper towels in the camp, because we don't have laundry service, and these are just a little, makes it a little bit nicer. And all my grub is going to stick to the paper towel there. That'll go out in the garbage. I take my second little paper towel and I just give it a good wipe down. Leave it on the stove there to sterilize for a couple minutes, and the pan is clean and ready for the next meal. It doesn't take very long at all. I don't use any soap on any of my pans. It's not necessary. Actually, it's better not to use soap because it keeps the seasoning on the pans. Okay, I got a little bit of grease on my hands, so I'm going to clean up a little bit. This is just a small stainless bowl from the hardware store. It works great. You can pour cold water in there. It doesn't take very much. I can either let that sit on the stove until it's nice and warm, or I can come alongside over here and get a little hot water out of the tap. This is another good reason to have a nice long chopping block. Nice to have good hot water. Oh yeah. Well, I'm not too bad today, but this works real well. I've cleaned up some real bad messes in a little wash basin like this. Always feels good to wash your face when you're out camping. Mostly I just wanted to say that wall tent camping can be fun, safe, and really relaxing. And I hope you'll get out and try it if you haven't before. I hope you enjoyed this video and came away with a couple useful tips. The next video in this wall tent series, we're going to cook a killer gourmet meal on this little wood stove. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but boy is it going to be good. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And as always, God bless you. Happy trails. This is West Fork. Over and out.